Welcome to this edition of From the Vault, presented by the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. I'm Todd Lewis. Today we'll go back to 1989 and the Porsche Turbo Cup Series. It's a little known fact that the Porsche single-make series began in Canada and became the biggest single-make manufacturer series in the world. Today we go deep into the vault and revisit races from Mosport and Mosport Tremblant. Enjoy.
Welcome to Mosport Park. This is the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series. Hello everyone, I'm Joe Tilley along with Pat Gonzalez for race number 1 of this summer-long championship here in Canada. Pat, the 4 major sponsors, Rothmans, Porsche, Pirelli, and Shell, we're excited to have them back, but there are some changes this year.
Well, there are some changes, Joe. The biggest change, of course, is this brand new Diet 7-Up guest car. Jacques Villeneuve will drive it here at Mosport. He's qualified it on the front row. And in all of the upcoming events, other international driving stars will be behind the wheel of that car. We also have a couple of drivers who have moved on. Scott Goodyear to the IMSA Series and Stefan Prue to Formula 3000 in Europe. They will not be part of the series, but what that does, it opens up an opportunity for drivers such as David Tennyson and Richard Laporte, who were rookies last year, to move up there and battle the likes of Richard Spinard. We also have a veteran driver back in the series, Bill Adam, who was a front runner in 1987. Bill should be one of the drivers going for that championship this year. So we're excited. It should be another great season of racing the Porsche 944 Turbos.
And of course, Richard Spinard has to be the favorite this year. He's a 1987 series champion. I asked Spinard about his chances.
Until you start the race and you see where you're slower, why you're qualifying third. Right now I'm third, but you know, there's only like 1/10 of a second separating myself and Laporte, and 300 of a second between me and Jacques. So it's very close, but what's interesting to find out once you start the race is where Laporte is going to be faster. If it's on the straight line, that's going to be hard, because he will be able to go slower through a corner and motor away from us on the straight line. That will make it easier for him. But yet to be seen where he's faster, because we didn't have a chance to follow each other in qualifying, and that makes it a bit more difficult to plan ahead.
And Richard will definitely have his hands full today with people like Richard Laporte, Jacques Villeneuve, and Jacques Bienvenu. The 30-lap race is twice the usual distance for these events at Mosport, which brings into play several factors, one of which is driver fatigue. A lot of these competitors have been off for 7 months. We'll be back with the start of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup right after this.
From the Vault is brought to you by M-Zone, premium auto care proudly owned and made by Canadians. By Recap Recovery Drink. By WeatherTech. For the perfect fit and ultimate in-vehicle protection, nothing protects like WeatherTech. Order online at weathertech.ca. And by the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. Visit our website for Hall merchandise.
We're all set for race number 1 of the 1989 Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup. Here's Pat with a look at the grid.
Qualifying times were close, with the top 8 drivers separated by less than a second. On the front row for today's race, Jacques Villeneuve and Richard Spinard. Row 2, it's Richard Laporte and Jacques Bienvenu. Laporte actually had the fastest qualifying time, but was pushed back a row for a technical infraction. David Tennyson and Rick Bai will share row 3, Tennyson in the Denon Audio car number 19, and Bai in his familiar Reebok Porsche. The 4th row, Chris Gleason and Uli Bieri. Bill Adam and Ludwig Heimrath in the 5th row. The 6th row, Jacques Liliev and Norman Boyer. In the 7th row, Larry Caruso and David Seabrook. Row 8, it's David King and Reinhold Schill. Row number 9, Ted Powell and Len Campbell. And in the 10th row, Terry Martell and Mike Williamson.
The weaving back and forth that you see helps heat up those Pirelli tires to racing temperature for the best grip. Remember now, everyone runs on the same equipment in this series, and as the cars approach that start, it's critical to have everything ready.
Villeneuve and Spinard at the front of the field, slowing the pace down to a crawl as they come through turn 10. All eyes focused on the starter stand, looking for the green flag to get this race underway, and the green flies here at Mosport. The Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series is underway into turn one. Laporte looks to the inside of Villeneuve, but Villeneuve will take the lead as they hit the bottom of turn one. Spinard will move into second place. Laporte runs third, and you're on board Richard Laporte as he sits in the third place spot into turn two. And ahead of him, you can see the leader, Villeneuve and Spinard. They're starting to open up a little bit of an advantage through turn number two as the drivers head through turn three here at Mosport on the opening lap. It is Villeneuve in the Diet 7-Up guest car, followed by Spinard, then Laporte in the third place spot. And again, you're on board the Sony Handycam giving us these beautiful pictures of the opening lap action here at Mosport. They go under the bridge into the chute, and it is still Villeneuve and Spinard running 1-2. Laporte closing it up just a little bit as they go through this tricky Moss corner now for the first time, and Laporte has caught the two leaders as he tries to pick up the draft now. The first run up the Andretti back straightaway here at Mosport.
They're just about to crest the hill, and there you can see Villeneuve trying to break that draft. That long train of cars behind him trying to take advantage of the draft.
On the back straightaway, Villeneuve still weaving back and forth. Spinard hangs right in there at the end of the back straightaway. Spinard looks to the inside, but he will have to follow Villeneuve into the S's, and just a car length separating Villeneuve and Spinard. It is Laporte in third, Jacques Bienvenu back in the fourth place position as the front-running four drivers tied together as they come through. Oh, and it is Villeneuve sideways onto the pit straight. He gathers it back up and will continue, but Jacques Villeneuve almost stuffed it into the wall, but a beautiful piece of driving from the onboard camera aboard Rick Bye's car. You can see how the field has strung out somewhat here as they start lap number two. It is still Villeneuve, your leader, followed by Spinard in the second place position. And there at the bottom of turn two, you can see Spinard mounting another challenge as he looks to the inside again. A bit of a gap back to Laporte, and here is Spinard on the inside. Richard Spinard will take over the lead. So evidently the problem that Villeneuve had coming on the front straightaway has affected him here on lap number two.
Spinard now the leader into turn five. You know, Pat, I don't think Villeneuve had a chance after that slide in turn 10.
Here it is on the replay. Villeneuve coming out of turn 10. He gets it all crossed up, goes sideways, really wrestling with the wheel, but gets the car back under control. Now he sits in the second place position. It is Spinard, the new leader, as he comes up to complete lap number two. So Spinard, the leader. Villeneuve in second. Laporte still runs third. Jacques Bienvenu in car number 89, the Dicom Express Porsche, back in the fourth place position. And there's David Tennyson now, last year's Rookie of the Year in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup. Tennyson runs in the fifth place position, and in fact it looks as though he is starting to reel in the front-running four cars. So this is quickly going to become a five-driver battle for the lead as Tennyson works it down through the bottom of turn two.
And behind Tennyson in sixth spot, it's Uli Bieri in the red car, then Ludwig Heimrath, Bill Adam, and Rick Bye back in ninth now after qualifying on the third row. Looks like he's having some trouble. He had some trouble qualifying yesterday, and now, yes, he's waving Chris Gleason by. Perhaps those gremlins are back. Earlier, we asked him what happened yesterday.
Coming into corner 10, which is the last corner before the pit straight, we ended up, the engine blew a seal in the oil filter, and proceeded to dump all the oil from the engine out of the engine and onto the exhaust system. And apparently, I didn't see it, but it was a pretty big fireball going down the pits. And my first indication was that the back wheel started to slide, and it got a little slippery from all the oil. I backed off and hooked the wheels up again and got on it again, and it just kept sliding and started to stink pretty good inside the car. I looked at the oil pressure was low, and I turned it off.
Some close racing a little further back in the pack. It's Liliev, Caruso, Campbell, Norman Boyer, David Seabrook, who's got that teal-colored car.
Richard Spinard has opened up about a 30-car length lead over this great second-place battle between Villeneuve and Laporte. Then it's Jacques Bienvenu in fourth. David Tennyson runs in the fifth-place position, and there is number 3, Bill Adam. He is having quite a scrap just inside the top 10. There's your leader, Spinard, down the chute, up in a Moss corner. You can see how much of an advantage he has moved out over Villeneuve, the early leader. Then it's Laporte, Bienvenu, Tennyson, and then a ferocious battle for sixth on the inside. Heimrath and Bieri. Bieri almost getting run off the racetrack. Heimrath will take over that sixth-place position.
And there's a look at the leaderboards. Bernard, Villeneuve, Laporte, Bienvenu, then David Tennyson. In sixth spot now, Ludwig Heimrath, then Bill Adam, Vieri, Chris Gleason, and Jacques Villeneuve.
Some great racing here in the opening laps. There's number 29, Reinhold Schill, who has run off the track at 5B. He'll get it turned around and continue on up the back straightaway. And here's number 8, Rick Bai. He is slowing down on the Andretti back straightaway. Problems on the Rick Bai Reebok Porsche. That race for second place really starting to heat up as Bienvenu starts to close. Still Tennyson in 5th, Heimrath 6th. There's the battle for 8th now between Uli Bieri and Chris Gleason. You're back with the leader, Richard Spinard, as he goes through Moss Corner. And right now, you're on board Richard Laporte's cars. He's all over Villeneuve. Gets out onto the grass, and it'll be Richard Laporte around into the second place position. Villeneuve made the mistake coming out of Moss Corner, and there was Laporte as he takes over the second place position. Now Villeneuve trying to pull up alongside as they come up the back straightaway, and they're going to be side by side up the back straightaway as now number 89, Bienvenu, gets into the thick of it. And the three drivers having a war at the end of the back straightaway into the S's. Laporte will hold on a second, and it'll be Bienvenu in a third. So Villeneuve, who led here on the opening lap, has been pushed back into the fourth place position, and this has moved Tennyson a little bit closer to this three-driver battle going on for the second place position.
Stay with us. We'll be back with more of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series.
Side by side at the end of the back straightaway, the battle for second. Jacques Bienvenu up to the outside of Richard Laporte into the S's, and Bienvenu will take over the second place position. There you can see from the onboard Sony Handycam, Richard Laporte trying to chase back down Bienvenu as they come out of the pit straightaway. Bienvenu getting up onto the speed curbing as he uses every inch of the racetrack to try to stay ahead of Laporte. And this has been a race-long battle for the second place spot. And the veteran Bienvenu finally able to get around going into the S's. Bienvenu coming up on Terry Martel in the black Porsche. He makes his way around up to the outside. Here is Laporte trying to pull the same move. Laporte right up on Martel, and he does make his way past. There is the battle for third place now as Villeneuve, Tennyson, and Heimrath have all closed in on Richard Laporte in a ferocious battle going on for third.
Now on board with David Tennyson, part of the train. A great race for the Thornhill youngster. He's showing the maturity it takes to win in this series, driving hard but smart. And one of the reasons, too, that he'll be part of the Canadian team to drive in the Turbo Cup support race at Le Mans, France later this season.
Richard Laporte leading that train out of the back straightaway. A tremendous battle for third. Here's one of the drivers involved in it, Jacques Villeneuve, in the 7-Up guest car. Earlier, we had a chance to talk to Jacques about his race strategy.
Well, it's a bit different for me. I don't have any right to the points or the money, so I don't want to be a spoiler in there and hurt somebody else with points or whatever. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to play it. I might wait or I might go. It depends on how the car's going to feel right away.
Well, Jacques went from the opening lap when he led, but this man has led since lap 2. That is Richard Spinard. There you can see the tremendous gap. Then the second place man, Bienvenu, but on the inside, Richard Laporte takes over second place going into the S's. It has been back and forth. It's Laporte now back into second, Bienvenu third. Then it is Villeneuve fourth, Tennyson fifth, Heimrath sixth. And now it is 5 drivers locked together in the race for the second place position. Back up across the line to complete yet another lap. And some of the best Rothmans Porsche racing we have seen here at Mosport. Down at the bottom of turn 1, Villeneuve slides that car, closing on 89. Jacques Bienvenu. Bienvenu giving that second place spot back to Laporte. Part of the great crowd on hand here at Mosport enjoying this race for second. And now Laporte starting to open up some ground on Bienvenu and Villeneuve. And these drivers are really pushing the Pirelli tires and these cars at the limit. Bill Adam trying to join the fray for second. Spinard aboard that number 4 Motormaster Porsche leads. Then it is Laporte, Bienvenu. There is Villeneuve in the 7-Up guest car. Then Tennyson in the blue car, followed by Heimrath, and then Bill Adam. That train back on the back straightaway, and you're alongside in the driver's seat with Jacques Villeneuve as he works the draft up the Andretti back straightaway.
And Pat, that's Ludwig Heimrath, the veteran, trying to pull out and pass David Tennyson and move into fifth spot. He's followed by Bill Adam and Uli Bieri in the red car.
Richard Laporte has opened up some ground. There's the battle now for third. It is Bienvenu number 89 trying to hold off Villeneuve, Tennyson, Heimrath, and then Bill Adams. So it's a five-way battle now for that third-place position as Laporte continues to pull away from Bienvenu. Those next five drivers are just glued together as they come onto the pit straight. And by the start-finish line into the bottom of turn one, you're with David Tennyson as he works on Jacques Villeneuve. Villeneuve, who led this race on the opening lap before almost putting it into the wall at the end of that first lap when he got it completely sideways.
And there's our leader, Richard Spinard, cruising along in his Monomaster downtown fine cars Porsche. And look at the lead he has opened up over Richard Laporte.
Laporte holding on a second. Here's Bienvenu sideways in turn three. Bienvenu off the racetrack, and he smacks the tire walls on the outside of turn three. And this has got to be a bitter disappointment for Bienvenu, who had such a good run going here this afternoon at Mosport.
Here's a look from the inside of Jacques Villeneuve's car. Bienvenu hits the brakes. He skids right off the racetrack. Meanwhile, while this is happening, David Tennyson slips through on the inside into third position.
There is Jacques Bienvenu, the veteran driver who was sixth in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Championships a year ago. And I tell you what, he's going to try to get back into this race. What determination from Jacques Bienvenu. He's going to give it another run here this afternoon. And Bienvenu earlier talked about his preparation for this year's Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup.
I was not sure if I was fitting on the city because I was getting older and older at each day, and like everybody for sure, but racing against guys like Spinard or Scott Goodyear or Villeneuve or Laporte, those guys are much younger than I am. And I decided to return to the school. Last year I had 3 advanced driving school, and I improved my time at Mosport Tremblant. I improved my time here a lot, and I improved my time at Shannonville. And I'm taking another school at the end of June at Mosport Tremblant again this year.
Bienvenu is back in this race, and he's certainly not giving up. He's right back at it with number 71. That's Larry Caruso. They're now running in 10th and 11th, but almost a lap down.
Bienvenu trying to pick off as many positions as he can. Each spot is worth more points. And of course, last year, just 6 points decided the championship between Scott Goodyear and Richard Spinard. On the back straightaway, the battle for third. Tennyson, and side by side, Heimrath will take over fourth as he pushes Villeneuve back into the 5th place position. So Jacques, who led this race on the opening lap, has been pushed back. There is part of the Reebok crew looking on as their driver, Rick Bai, is back out there on the racetrack after a trip to pit lane for repairs. And Rick Bai has battled through a lot of adversity here this weekend, but he's back out there again trying to pick up as many points here at this opening round. There is the 2nd place driver, Laporte, the gap back to 3rd, Tennyson, and there's Villeneuve off into the grass. Bill Adam up to the outside. Adam will put Villeneuve back another position, so Jacques continues to drop further back through the top 10 as Ulibieri now comes up to challenge.
There's Laporte in 2nd, followed by Tennyson and Heimrath. Bill Adam now moved up to 5th after qualifying 10th. Adam finally starting to get the hang of these turbo Porsches. He's driven in the Rothmans Porsche Series before, but this is the first time he's driven the Porsche 944 Turbo.
The race for 3rd involving David Tennyson in the blue car, Ludwig Heimrath, the veteran, in the white car, up the straightaway. Just about a half a car length separating the 2 drivers. Heimrath looked as though he's going to try to make a move to the inside going into the S's, but he just couldn't quite do it. And he's right there with Tennyson as they swing back through and into turn number 9.
Now we've got a problem. There's a yellow flag, a full course yellow. Now there's a pace car coming out on the circuit to slow down the field. There's definitely something wrong here.
Well, we understand, Joe, that there's been a problem with the communication system for the corner workers, and they, of course, would call for ambulances if it was needed in the event of a major crash. So without that communication system around the circuit, they have brought out the pace car to gather up the field, try to get the problem corrected and get these drivers back under racing speed. But you can see the entire field is slow. There is Richard Laporte, the onboard camera showing the leader just up ahead of him. That is Richard Spinard, and there, of course, is the pace car and the yellow caution flags out right around the circuit.
Now this could be a real shame as we're nearing the end of this race. The laps are counted under the yellow flag. This race could finish under the yellow if that communications problem is not fixed.
That would be a major disappointment to certainly some of the drivers here. Others, of course, it's an advantage because the big lead that Spinard had has now been closed up.
There's the leaderboard. Spinard, Laporte, Tennyson, Heimrath, and Bill Adam now in 5th spot. Then it's Uli Bieri, Jacques Villeneuve, Chris Gleason, Jacques Liliev, Larry Caruso. That's how they would finish if this race finished under the yellow flag.
We're hopeful of getting back to green flag racing as one of the drivers is slowed on the back straightaway. That is Bill Adam, number 3, as he is having problems.
We'll be back at Mosport right after this.
The pace car coming through turn 9. It pulls off to the right. We should get a green. Spinard leads the field, single file. Onto the start-finish straightaway, and the green flag is out. We're back to racing here in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup. Spinard leads them down through turn 1. You're on board with David Tennyson, the third-place driver. Just ahead of him, Richard Laporte. Tennyson, you can see, fighting the steering wheel just a little bit. Back into turn 2. There's your leader, Spinard, followed by Laporte and then Tennyson. Things have strung out just a little bit. Heimrath runs back in the 4th place spot. So Spinard opens up a few car lengths. And now the battle is for 5th, and it is David Seabrook. Number 17 has hit the tire walls off the racetrack at the bottom of turn 2. There's Bill Adam. He's become a spectator on the back straightaway here at Mosport. The leader, Spinard, followed by Laporte, then Tennyson, as the front-running 3 drivers now have opened up a gap side by side. That is Uli Bieri will move around. Number 7, Heimrath, into the 4th place position, as will Villeneuve. Problems on the Heimrath car.
Heimrath had been challenging for 3rd, but now he's slowed down considerably. Bieri, Villeneuve, Gleason have passed him. Now a lot of traffic goes by.
Richard Laporte mounting a challenge for the lead as he closes to it. Then just a few car lengths of Richard Spinard, who has led since lap number 2. The drivers get the last lap indication side by side into the S's. Norman Boyer and Len Campbell touch. Campbell wrestling his car, trying to get it back under control, and he does, but there was some heavy contact there between Norman Boyer and Len Campbell. Back with the leaders. It is Spinard, followed by Laporte, Tennyson, all by himself in 3rd. Now the battle for 4th. That is Uli Bieri, Jacques Villeneuve, and then right behind him is Chris Gleason.
Jacques Villeneuve has been involved in some intense racing. He's been very hard on those tires throughout the day. And there goes Chris Gleason, past Jacques Villeneuve and into 5th position.
That big slide that Jacques had on the opening lap could have affected his tires, and they might be going off just a little bit in this closing lap. Out of Moss Corner now for the final time. Bieri just ahead of Gleason, and then Jacques Villeneuve. Here are the leaders, Spinard and Laporte. One last run up the back straightaway here at Mosport. And if Laporte is going to get Spinard, he's going to have to do it going into the S's. At the end of the back straightaway, Spinard holding off Richard Laporte. From the onboard Sony Handycam, you can see just how much racetrack Laporte must make up. Just 2 corners to go. They're through turn number 9, coming into the final corner. Spinard by a few car lengths. It looks like he will take the checkered flag for the win, and there it is. Richard Spinard, the winner. David Tennyson through the final corner. Tennyson has had a great run here this afternoon at Mosport, and he will take the checkered flag to finish in 3rd.
David Tennyson wins a drag race with Uli Bieri right down to the wire to earn 3rd spot. But what a race for Richard Spinard, who leads all the way from the 2nd lap. There's a look at the final standings. Spinard followed by Laporte, David Tennyson, Uli Bieri takes 4th, Jacques Villeneuve rounds out the top 5. In 6th spot, it's Chris Gleason, then Jacques Liliev, Larry Caruso, Norman Boyer in 9th, and Ted Powell with his best finish ever in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series, a 10th place finish. Pat, an interesting start to our 1989 Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series.
Well, Joe, some of the young drivers that we talked about, Tennyson and Laporte, first-year rookies last year, they showed that they've really improved, 2nd and 3rd today. And, of course, Richard Spinard taking the first step towards winning the championship this year.
For Pat Gonzalez, I'm Joe Tilley. Good afternoon.
You can never go wrong watching Richard Spinard behind the wheel of a race car. He, along with Uli Bieri, Jacques Villeneuve, Larry Caruso, Scott Goodyear, and more, who are all members of the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. Next, the Turbo Cup Series moves to Quebec to race at Mont Tremblant.
Welcome to Le Circuit, Mont Tremblant, Quebec, for race number 3 of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series. Hello, everyone. I'm Brian McGorman. With me is Pat Gonzalez. We are just north of Montreal in the heart of the Laurentian Mountains at Pat, what is one of Canada's most historic racing facilities.
It really is that, Brian, and this is a critical stop for the drivers because you've got to realize there's almost $500,000 on the line this year for the drivers. Years ago, it was drivers like Sterling Moss, Chris Amon, and Dan Gurney that brought the racing crowds here to Mont Tremblant. They race these old Can-Am style cars, and they've also raced Formula One and Indy cars here back in the late 60s and early 70s. The track and the beautiful surroundings haven't really changed much in the 20 years since this field awaited the start of their race. We talked about the prize money for today's Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup. That's one of the things that has changed. This bump and grind start back in 1966 was for only a fraction of what the total purse is in this year's series. That doesn't mean that the racing was any less intense. And when Mario Andretti won the IndyCar race here in 67 and 68, his average speed was 96 miles per hour, just 4 miles an hour faster than today's production-based Porsche 944 turbos.
There's another interesting aspect here, too. Le Circuit Mont Tremblant is the Canadian home of the Jim Russell Racing School. And earlier, we took a close-up look at the school's operations. The garages are snuggled in the infield of Le Circuit. Students start with textbook theory and then quickly graduate to in-car sessions in these Formula 2000 training cars. Each is identically prepared, and Jim Russell instructors constantly monitor the progress of the racing students. Danny Sullivan and the late Gilles Villeneuve are two of the drivers who got their start here at the Jim Russell School at Le Circuit.
The season opener was at Mosport Park. 1987 champion Richard Spinard showing the rest of the field nothing but superb driving skills. He took the lead on the second lap from Jacques Villeneuve and never looked back, taking an impressive win. Richard Laporte finished second, a few car lengths back, and David Tennyson won the drag race to the checker over Uli Bieri to finish third.
And Pat, the last time around here at Le Circuit, we had a heck of a battle in round two.
Well, we really had two races, Brian. The first on a dry racetrack involved Richard Spinard and David Tennyson, who had started from the pole. Then it started to rain. The track was very, very wet. The officials stopped the race and then gave them 5 minutes to change tires. Just about everybody went to the treaded Pirelli P0s, but there were 3 drivers who did not. One of those was Rick Bye, and on those slicks with a drying racetrack after the restart, he simply ran away with his first big victory here at Mont Tremblant in the series. But you know, there were many championship hopefuls coming into that second round, including Richard Laporte. He had qualified well, but his chance at the championship ended up here in Namuro Corner. Challenging for second place with Richard Spinard, Laporte got out of shape under braking. You can see that the cars actually touch here, and this leaning on Spinard may have helped keep Laporte on the track as they went through the S's. Moments later, Laporte got past and stayed in the middle of the track in Namuro to protect the position. He then gets out of shape, hits the tire wall, and does a complete rollover, practically destroying his Rotisserie Laurier 944.
Richard Laporte is back and ready to go, but his team really had to do some scrambling to get the car ready for this week's race. As you can tell, the lettering isn't even complete, but he will be back on the track at Le Circuit, where close racing is the rule. And here's Pat on how the standard is maintained.
I'm standing in the impound area where after each Rothmans Porsche qualifying session or race, several of the cars are brought in here, and they're checked over by the Canadian Automobile Sports Club officials to make sure that they do conform to the very stringent rules in this series. If there is an infraction or a problem with one of the cars, that driver could very well be disqualified from the race or a good qualifying effort negated. It's one more way that Rothmans Porsche race officials make sure that these cars are as equally matched as possible, and that'll usually provide for some very close, great racing action out there on the track.
Thanks, Pat. The close racing action has produced a tight top 10 in the points raced, the year-end championship. And here's a look at the standings. Richard Spinard leads with 45 points. Chris Gleason and Uli Bieri are tied for second on the strength of good finishes here and at Mosport in round 1. Larry Caruso is fourth with 37 points. Jacques Leliev has 34. Normand Boyer and Ludwig Heimrath are tied for sixth spot with 33 points. And both Richard Laporte and David Tennyson have 30 points. They both crashed in round 2 after finishing second and third in the season opener. Ted Powell rounds out the top 10 with 28 points. We'll be back with round 3 of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Championship in just a moment. So we are just about set for the start of the race. The cars are on the grid, and to run down the starting grid, here's Pat.
Qualifying has brought the two 1989 race winners together. Richard Spinard will start from the pole position, and the winner in race number 2, Rick Bye, will be on the outside of the front row. Jacques Leliev shares row 2 with the 1988 champion Scott Goodyear. It's Liliev's best qualifying effort to date. Scott will drive the Diet 7-Up guest car. Row 3 is Chris Gleason and David Tennyson. Gleason finished second here the last time, and Tennyson holds the Turbo Cup qualifying record here at Mont Tremblant.
In row 4, it's Bill Adam alongside Jacques Bienvenu. Richard Laporte and Uli Bieri make up row 5. Ludwig Heimrath and Larry Caruso are in row 6. David Seabrook and Len Campbell in row 7. Reinhold Schill and Normand Boyer make up row 8. David King and Ted Powell in row 9. Marc Quentin and Peter Overing in row 10. And Terry Martell rounds out the field.
The cars have cleared Namaro Corner as they come out of the start-finish straightaway looking for the green flag to get this one underway. Spenard and Rick Bye charge into turn number 1. Jacques Liliev moves down to the inside. Through turn 1, Spenard and Rick Bye side by side. Liliev moves up alongside of Rick Bye, and yes, he has moved into the second place position. Spenard leads. Jacques Liliev into the number 2 spot, and Rick Bye, who qualified on the front row, is back in third, and you're on board with Rick Bye as he tries to chase down Jacques Liliev aboard the number 16 Porsche. Richard Spenard opening up a bit of an advantage here over Liliev, who appears to be holding up Rick Bye, but as they come through this right-hand turn, Liliev manages to hold on to that second place position. Rick Bye runs in third. The fourth place driver then would be Scott Goodyear in the Diet 7-Up car, and then David Tennyson back in the fifth place spot. Side by side, it is Tennyson up alongside of Goodyear. Tennyson challenging for fourth, and they're running still side by side going up the back straightaway.
Whoa, Tennyson and Goodyear almost bumped there.
And they're still running side by side as they crest the top of the hill. Spenard, your leader. Liliev having a great run here early in the race in second. Rick Bye runs back into third place spot.
Let's see how Goodyear handles this challenge. He goes straight for the apex, closing the door on Tennyson.
While Tennyson looked as though he was going to try to make a move down to the inside, he was right there, but Goodyear, as you said, shut the door. He had nowhere to go but back out of the throttle and sit back there in the fifth place position. Your leader, Spenard, up in Namaro. Liliev has closed. Rick Bye is right there. Goodyear and then Tennyson as the 5-car train moves through Namaro Corner here on this opening lap. Spenard will lead him on to the start-finish straightaway, but just barely ahead of Jacques Liliev, number 16. Liliev, who raced many, many times here in Formula Fords, is having one of his best runs in a Porsche 944 Turbo, but now he comes under pressure from Rick Bye, our winner here during race number 2.
At the racing for every position. Back in the pack, here's Overing in the white, side by side, trying to move on Terry Martell.
Overing in the last place position at the moment aboard that Dicom Express Porsche. We're back with the leaders. Spenard still leads over Liliev, who continues to feel the pressure of Rick Bye in the third place position. Then it is Scott Goodyear in the Diet 7-Up Porsche, and right with him now David Tennyson, as Tennyson again mounts a challenge for fourth. You're on board with Scott Goodyear as Rick Bye pulls to the inside of Liliev, and Rick Bye will take over the second place position. Liliev comes right back. Tennyson now makes a move down to the inside. He'll move up into fourth place. So they shuffle the deck up front. Spenard still leads, but we've got a new second place driver. We've got a new fourth place driver.
And here's a look at our complete leaderboard. Spenard in first, Rick Bye, then Jacques Liliev, David Tennyson, Scott Goodyear rounding up the top 5. Jacques Bienvenu followed by Bill Adam, Richard Laporte, Ludwig Heinrath, and Uli Vieri making up the top 10.
The front-running 4 drivers now have broken away from Scott Goodyear, who's dropped back just a little bit as they come up in Namaro. It is still Spenard leading, Rick Bye in second, Jacques Liliev in the red car in third, and David Tennyson in fourth. You're on board with Richard Spenard aboard the Motormaster Porsche as he comes up across the line, heading into that very difficult turn number 1.
Pat Spenard is really a practiced driver, a true technician. Remember, his profession is teaching racing, and even under race pressure, each lap, each shift, each turn is calculated. I asked him earlier about his strategy for beginning a race from the front row.
If it's easy for me to take a lead without abusing the car, and that's the main thing, you don't want to abuse your tires and the car to extend your lead too early. If I can extend my lead without abusing the car, then I'll do it. Now, if I feel I have to push too hard, probably it's safer just to hang back a little bit, you know.
That's the Reebok crew, and they're looking for Chris Gleason. Now, he came into the pits after the first pace lap. Thought he had a turbo problem, but nothing was found. He had to start the race from the pits, and now he is going after Ted Powell in the Fuji car.
On board with Scott Goodyear, the Sondy Handycam, providing these pictures just ahead of Goodyear, the battle for third place as David Tennyson closes on Jacques Liliev. Tennyson pulling up alongside through this left-hand turn. They go side by side, and now Tennyson moves around Liliev to take over the third place position. Scott Goodyear with the best seat in the house to watch that action.
A 7-car train has developed, everyone within reach and thinking about moving up one more spot. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
You're with the second place driver, Rick By, as he tries to chase down Richard Spinard, but here's David Tennyson right up alongside in Enamoro. Tennyson wants that second place position. He will pull up alongside of Rick By as they're about to come out of the final turn and onto the start-finish straightaway. Tennyson challenging for the second place position. He will move around Rick By into the number 2 spot. David Tennyson, who qualified here brilliantly during round number 2, only to run into problems during the race, and he was also the pole winner here back at the end of last year, so he has qualified well here at Mont Tremblant. He has not had the race results to match those brilliant qualifying efforts, and right now he's moved into second place position and goes after the leader, Richard Spinard. There you can see the interval between the leader, Spinard, in the red and white car, and then that blue and white Denon Audio Porsche of David Tennyson. Rick By in the number 8 Reebok Porsche. That is the yellow car in third. Just behind him, it is Jacques Liliev in the red Porsche, and then Scott Goodyear in the Diet 7-Up Porsche. You're on board with Scott Goodyear as he moves down to the inside of Liliev. And Scott Goodyear has muscled his way through to the inside into the 4th place position. Scott Goodyear, who has been racing Indy cars and IMSA GTP cars, making his only appearance in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup this year here at Mont Tremblant.
At the top of the hill, Spinard's still the leader, but look at the action in the backfield. That's Goodyear out wide.
Bill Adam moves to the inside of Jacques Bienvenu. Adam going for the 6th place position, and he will come through. A beautiful job of outbreaking Jacques Bienvenu there by Bill Adam into number 3 Toshiba Porsche.
On board now with Scott Goodyear. He's fresh from racing Indy cars last weekend, so he's hardly rusty, but still came out for extra testing in the Porsche. Asked him why he felt he needed the extra practice.
The reason I came out for testing yesterday simply was to get a tune to the car. And no matter what series you drive in, the guys that are driving the series year-round have been doing it, and they're up to 100% speed, and it's important to come out and get a few laps to feel the car. Cars are just like people. They have different personalities, and if you can get some testing laps in, you can get yourself up to 100% speed and get ready for race day. So no matter what car you're driving, ground effects, non-ground effects, single-seater, sedan car, it's important just to come out and get tuned back up again.
Bad news now for Bill Adam. He's had a problem, and he's signaling he's coming into the pits.
As Bill Adam heads for pit road, the battle for 12th moves in. Enamoro, that is Len Campbell in the red number 11 Porsche, holding on to 12th place at the moment, but he is coming under pressure from David Seabrook as Seabrook closes right on him. There's the blue flag being displayed to the drivers just to let them know that there are other cars right there behind him as they go through turn 1.
Here's a look at our leaderboard now. Richard Spinard still in front, David Tennyson, then Rick By, Scott Goodyear, and Jacques Liliev. Jacques Bienvenu is in 6th, Richard Laporte, Uli Bieri, Ludwig Heimrath, and then Larry Caruso rounding out the top 10.
David Tennyson now coming under pressure from Rick By as he closes back up to challenge. A little bit further back, 71 Larry Caruso and number 75 Chris Gleason having a go at each other through Namaro.
Pat, that's the race for 10th. Chris Gleason has charged. He had to start from the pits, and now here he is battling for 10th.
The two drivers side by side as they come onto the start-finish straightaway, and Chris Gleason will take over that 10th place position. Chris Gleason, who had one of his best finishes ever, 2nd place here during round number 2 behind winner Rick By, and he has moved into that 10th place spot. You're with the leader, Spinard, as he goes through Tennyson, and then Rick By, who now comes under pressure from Scott Goodyear. The red car there, Jacques Liliev, runs 5th. Then it's 89. That is Jacques Bienvenu in the 6th place position, and back in 7th, the number 5 car of Richard Laporte. His crew has done a great job getting that car back together here for round number 3 after that horrendous rollover in Namaro during round number 2 here at Mont Tremblant. Spinard, number 4, continues to lead aboard the Motormaster Porsche, but David Tennyson right there just a couple of car lengths back, and you're on board with Scott Goodyear, the 1988 Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup champion, as he has nothing but the Reebok Porsche in his sights as he closes on Rick By.
Scott Goodyear's first race here at Mont Tremblant since last year, the final race of the season when he won the championship.
Scott Goodyear closing right up on Rick By up in Enamoro. He would like to get around that yellow Reebok Porsche and then try to chase down both Tennyson and Spinard. David Tennyson, of course, has had some brilliant qualifying efforts here at Mont Tremblant. He won the pole position during round number 2, and that race you talked about, Brian, at the end of last year was where Tennyson set the outright Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup qualifying record here at Mont Tremblant. Scott Goodyear fighting the wheel of that Porsche. Now he gets in a little bit sideways, loops the car around, lights up the tires. He's off the racetrack into the tire walls. Goodyear puts it in gear. Now he will get back onto the track, but Scotty Goodyear pushing it perhaps a little bit too hard, chasing Rick by, and he slides off the racetrack and has lost several positions.
Here's the replay, Pat, and you hit the nail right on the head. Goodyear is just pushing it too hard, loses control right here, and then slowly slides off and into the tire wall, so no damage to the car or nothing severe, and he is back into the race.
Scott Goodyear now running in 7th place, but that was an uncharacteristic piece of driving by Scotty Goodyear. You're with Rick By as he moves up the back straightaway. Rick By will put a lap on the 44 car of Terry Martell as he closes now on David Tennyson and Richard Spinard. Spinard still your leader. Tennyson right behind in 2nd.
You know, Pat, before the race, I asked Rick for a prediction on what would make the difference as this race progressed.
It's going to be trying to save the car and the tires and having the best car in the last 5 or 6 laps, I should think. The cars, the brakes, the tires, everything go away on this track because the surface is so abrasive and the nature of the track. And it's going to be a matter of trying to put together smooth, easy laps in the beginning. But that's very difficult because everybody else is going to be going like crazy. So,
one man who's been able to do that and has capitalized is Chris Gleason, who's now in 10th place.
Chris Gleason in that yellow number 75 Porsche, who has had a great run here since starting in pit road, and he is closing on the 9th place car of Ludwig Heimrath.
And here's a look at our leaderboard as it stands now. Richard Spinard still in front. Tennyson, then Rick By, Jacques Leliev, and Jacques Bienvenu. Richard Laporte now 6th. Scott Goodyear 7th. Uli Bieri, Ludwig Heimrath, and Chris Gleason to round out the top 10.
Car number 88 of Peter Overing, that is the twin car to Jacques Bienvenu, the Dicom Express Porsche, one of 2 team cars in this event. Overing right now running all by himself, well outside of the top 10. You're back with the leaders who now come up in an Amaro. David Tennyson is all over Richard Spinard as just 2 or 3 car lengths separate those 2 drivers. Spinard still leading Tennyson. Look at this battle between number 5, Richard Laporte, and the 89 car of Jacques Bienvenu. They have been running this close together for several laps now. Bienvenu running in the 5th place spot. Laporte is 6th, and then Scott Goodyear behind in 7th. Richard Spinard still leads David Tennyson. You can see Tennyson just how hard he is trying. You're with the 3rd place driver who's trying to make it a 3-way shootout for the lead. But Rick By has some catching up to do aboard that Reebok Porsche as he tries to chase down both Tennyson and Spinard. What was once a 7-car freight train for the lead has now become just a 3-car race up front. And look at the gap back to the 4th place driver, Jacques Leliev in the red Porsche. Jacques, who qualified well here in 3rd, ran up as high as 2nd. And then behind him it is 89 Bienvenu and then number 5 Laporte.
This is Scott Goodyear coming in, and he's going to give you a driver's eye view of turn 7.
It's a sweeping right-hand corner with a bump just before the apex. On a good lap, the drivers tell us that the car gets light off the bump and drifts to the outside edge of the track. The best setup for the back hairpin is to stay to the left side. You then enter that hairpin wide, turning in slowly to make the late apex. This corner is critical in turning a quick lap. The driver must exit the hairpin with enough speed to take advantage of the long climb up the back straight, over the crest of the hill, before braking hard going into the S's. This is one of the most popular passing sections of the racetrack.
Stay with us. We'll be back with the finish of race number 3 from Mont Tremblant in just a moment.
You're looking at the battle for 9th place between Ludwig Heimrath and number 75, Chris Gleason. And it has been all uphill for Gleason after starting on pit road when they had some problems with the car. Just before the start of the race, he has climbed up into 10th, looking for the 9th place position. You're back with the leaders, Richard Spinard, just ahead of David Tennyson and Rick By, continuing to inch just a little bit closer to these 2 drivers. Scott Goodyear, who ran up as high as 4th, now runs in the 7th place position aboard the Diet 7-Up guest car. Scott making his only appearance in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup Series this year. Spinard, the leader, hard braking in an Amaro corner. Tennyson is right there, and Rick By still trying to play catch-up from the 3rd place position. These 3 drivers have broken well ahead of the rest of the field. As the 1st and 2nd place cars come up across the line, they get the 1 lap to go. Indication from the flagman high atop the Pirelli flagger stand. Through turn 1, Spinard, if anything, starting to stretch it out just a little bit. Richard Spinard digging down a little bit deeper. relying on all his years of driving experience to stay ahead of the young Charger in David Tennyson, and Spinard has pulled out a good 9 to 10 car lengths now with less than a lap to go. Rick By about an equal distance back into third place position. Richard Spinard, who qualified his Motormaster Porsche on the pole here at Mont Tremblant, after Tennyson won the pole here during round number 2. And right now, Spinard and Tennyson, the two drivers who have been fastest in qualifying here at Mont Tremblant so far this year, run 1-2. A little bit further back now, Chris Gleason has taken over that 9th place position from Ludwig Heimrath, and Gleason really has had a strong run after finishing second to teammate Rick By during race number 2, so he has got to be satisfied with his effort after having those mechanical problems earlier. At the end of the back straightaway, they go into the S's for the final time. It is still Spinard leading, Tennyson in the blue Denon audio car in second, and then Rick By in that yellow Reebok Porsche runs back in third. With less than a lap to go, you're sitting beside Rick By as he comes under the bridge now for the final time, knowing that he is going to run out of laps. The top 3 drivers still running close together on the racetrack, but with just a couple of corners to go, it looks like the checkered flag will see Spinard, Tennyson, and Rick By in that order. They clear Namaro corner for the final time. Spinard about 9 or 10 car lengths separating him and the second place driver Tennyson as they come up across the line. The checkered flag is out, and Richard Spinard has won the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup race here at Mont Tremblant. Tennyson finishes second, Rick By across the line in third. The 16 car of Jacques Liliev, who ran up as high as second in the early going. Jacques will finish back in the 4th place spot as he takes the checkered flag, and that'll be number 89, Jacques Bienvenu. Here is the battle in Namaro. David King locks up the wheels. He hits the tire wall. David King and David Seabrook were side by side in Namaro, battling for positions on that last lap. And David King will get it back onto the racetrack. He will take the checkered flag.
And let's look at our top 10. Richard Spinard, the leader wire to wire to capture his second victory of the year, holding off his ex-student David Tennyson. Rick By is third. Jacques Leliev, a great race to finish in 4th place. The veteran Jacques Bienvenu in that Dicom Express finishing in 5th. Rounding out the top 10 in 6th spot is Richard Laporte. Scott Goodyear, the defending champion, driving that 7-Up guest car to 7th place. Uli Bieri is 8th, Chris Gleason 9th, and Ludwig Heimrath rounds out the top 10.
Applause for our Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup winner, Richard Spinard, as he gets congratulations from our series sponsors, Rothmans and Porsche. He'll now climb the victory podium along with the 2nd place finisher, David Tennyson, to his left. And now congratulations from our 3rd place driver, Rick By.
Quite a victory for Richard Spinard. He leads start to finish in winning round 3 of the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Series here at Le Circuit Mont Tremblant. Join us next time. We'll be at Mosport Park in Toronto. For Pat Gonzalez, this is Brian McGorman saying so long from Le Circuit at Mont Tremblant, Quebec.
Spinard makes it 2 in a row. The Quebec racer would go on to claim the 1989 championship. Presently, there are 34 Porsche-based series racing around the world, making it the largest ever single-make series. Thanks for watching From the Vault. Don't forget, visit a racetrack in your community. I'm Todd Lewis. See you next time.
From the Vault is brought to you by M-Zone, premium auto care, proudly owned and made by Canadians. By Recap Recovery Drink. By WeatherTech. For the perfect fit and ultimate in-vehicle protection, nothing protects like WeatherTech. Order online at weathertech.ca. And by the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. Visit our website for Hall merchandise.